G'day guys and welcome to a quick look at Canterbury, Wednesday the 26th of July. 3 metre rail, which is normally a pretty solid position you can run on or lead and win there. Dry track this time of year, tracks are quite firm considering how cold it is, and with the dry weather it is difficult to run on usually on these sort of tighter tracks, so I think it will play a little bit more on pace than normal. I'd probably say it's going to be similar to a bit of a Rose Hill sort of track where you want to be leader behind leader, getting off maybe a couple in the straight won't be an issue. Bigger fields, bit of pressure, you will be able to run on, I would say, but I would still rather be sort of up there and kicking rather than coming wide and swooping. First race of the day, some key scratching, Smart Edge, Christensen, Fabini, Sasso, Corbaro all out. Leaves Brave Song a pretty short price favourite, and I think the smaller field will suit it a little bit. The issue being where it gets to in the run with an average tempo, as you see here. There's just really no speed at all on paper. I think Puppet Master's the one that'll probably try and take it up if it can jump cleaner than it did at Gosford in its first start when it chased hard. It looks the main danger from that position. Obviously Sparky Lad can improve and draws the inside and probably kick up and try and hold that spot. I wouldn't be surprised if it tried to hold the lead or behind leader. And then Brave Song's got a decision from that wide gate what it does. Obviously raced very well, ridden back in the field, just going down after it did look to peak there at first up 1200, and when it did cop a check it kind of looked to take a bit of the sting out of it as well. So it's an improving horse and a genuine favourite. It's just a matter of where it's going to get to in the run here and how wide and long a run it's going to have to sustain to win. The other horse that does map well is the Bjorn Baker horse, Tony's Reward. If it crosses, it can run a race as well. So I can't see much between Puppet Master and Brave Song here, basically because of the tactics, but you have to trust that Puppet Master is going to jump cleanly. If it does, it'll race well. Sparky Lad's obviously an improver after being in the worst part the other day, and now draws to be probably in the best part. Tony's Reward will knock out. It's a race for me to watch. If you had to have a bet, I could have something tiny on Puppet Master maybe, but I'm not too keen to play in this race at this stage. Pardon me. Race 2. Another race where scratchings have really cut the numbers incredibly here, with Launch Code and Goresbridge running yesterday, Vincero out, Missile Coda running later in the day, Imogen, who looked a real player here, out, and Pandia, who looked a bit of a swooping closer, out as well, suited back in distance, but they're all not showing up. Ebenos has trialled okay. The smaller field obviously does suit it, and still concerned 61.5 first up with the Apprentice. I don't think it's an easy race to win, and there's some fast horses here. I'm a bit of a query around most of its form. It's an honest horse, that's for sure, but I think it'll struggle to put these away. Phuket's absolutely flying. It's obviously had an issue where it pulled a shoe there at Newcastle a few runs back, and it's had the synthetic hoof filler ever since, but hasn't stopped it racing well, especially back towards this distance range. It'll probably box seat here and will need a bit of luck, but can run very well. Nick Tock looks the leader, looks drawn to lead wide. It's flying. Back up to 1100 shouldn't be an issue, and it's even though it's a country galloper, it does look to have the right form to measure up to this level. Rebel Miss is a horse I've got plenty of time for. Big win first up over the 900. If it bought that form here, I think it would be winning this. Obviously this is 1100, not 900. It's had a bit of a failure since and been back to the trials where it has raced well. I think it will be ridden dead cold here if at all possible. The rider change is definitely positive, and it can come with a big sprint. It's the one that'll probably be coming wider. So it's a horse that I can't see Ebenos holding out. I can't see it sitting on the speed and beating a horse like Nick Tock, so that's why I'm against Ebenos. Road to Sundown Racing okay, and Pell up in grade probably does look a bit tested here. For me, I think there's 3 winning chances in Nick Tock, Phuket sitting behind the leader, and Rebel Miss swooping. Nick Tock probably the one to beat with Bowman and controlling the tempo, but definitely well found at the $2.25 mark. If I was to have a bet, and it's another race I'm not overly keen to get involved in, I'd be taking the 5 and 550 Rebel Miss with the SP sort of Bet365 play, I would imagine that they could go either way in the market. So it's a sort of horses I'm not sure what the pricing is going to do here. So I could have a small play on both of those and watch the race. Race 3. Not too many scratchings here, but definitely a key scratching in Maracuita late on Vet's advice. Not a lot of speed again on paper here. Summit Breath, I think, will drag across, and it's a matter of how hard Clister is pushed out, really, I think, to dedicate the tempo here. Even if it kicks up leads and then Summit Breath lobs outside it, you can see that sort of Hamoon Dream should come across into a position here where it either sits outside Summit Breath, which is a good position, or it sits behind Summit Breath if Clister kicks up and holds the lead in a one out, one back position, and does look the one to beat for Mindset outside a long time ago last start and ran quite well. I think it's well placed here, hard fit, and does look the one to beat. Shahrazad was an enormous run last start, just should have been winning given very little chance, and for me the query is 1250 with her. Whether if she runs that out, she should be probably on the back of a Moon Dream, and if she runs it out, she'll probably win. But I think it is a strong query. It's not ridiculously short around the $4 mark, but it's short enough. I think No Interest is a horse that's going to get back with the apprentice and is racing well, probably suited back to 1250 here. If they go too quick in front, it's probably a closer, but it may have a tough task. I don't see them going overly quick here unless the apprentices get a bit excited. Well, one apprentice on Clister gets excited and runs them along. And Chiquita should sit right behind the leaders here and run an honest race, but I can't see it holding out a couple of the others. Even though it is hard fit and racing well, I'd have it more of a place chance. For me, Hamoon Dream on top of Shahrazad in race 3. Race 4. Interesting race. I'm not saying it's a match race because there are quite a few handy enough horses and there are things against these two horses, but they definitely dominate the betting. Special Missile has been controlling the tempos of its races, or especially it did last start, and that's my only little query. So it went well over the 12 first up on the wet track, second up on the wet track over 1350, then had that 20 days off one at Warwick Farm when coming from a little bit off the speed, but a very solid run and had a bit of tempo to help it. Last start it led, sat outside the leader early, hit the front in a walking pace over the 15 and won comfortably, carrying a decent weight. Still up in the weights here and goes to 1550, but can't really see it holding it up. It's well deep into its preparation. It's hard fit, does look to control the tempo again, and is clearly the horse to beat. Imanui's the other horse hard in the betting. Not sure where it gets to in the run. It should have been winning first up in a Saturday race, but that was a very, very weak Saturday race. Obviously has the apprentice aboard here, and you have to query about how long a run it's going to have to make in order to win this race. So it'd be hard for. I'd prefer to dive into the $3 plus about Special Missile than the $3 plus about Imanui. Quick Defence definitely chased right to the line last start against the pattern and does look ready to win. Plaisir drawn perfectly just to sort of need a bit of luck in the straight or coming to the turn, but should be strong. Nocio up from Melbourne is a similar type of horse and drawn similarly, and they do look genuine winning chances. The three of those horses, Quick Defence, Plaisir and Nocio. So I wouldn't be throwing all my eggs in the favourites baskets here. I'd be around Imanui, even though I think it's the best horse in the race. I don't think it's that ideally set up here, and probably next time around too, being third up around this trip will be even better. The dry track does suit him, but maybe not today. Special Missile deserved favourite for mine. I think Quick Defence is next pick, and Plaisir and Nocio the knockout runners. But again, not a race I'm looking to really bet in with any confidence. Race 5 and that sort of same tone to this race. Big queries over most of the runners. Adjective does look like it can sit up on the tempo. The leader here was scratched in timing. Adjectives: tough enough horse, had absolutely no hope last start. Back 100 metres and can be on pace, can be an improver here. Probably surprised if it wins, but around 20 to 1, it's definitely a place chance at the minimum. In Vienna's first up for 122 days for the new stable and Chris Lee's. Draws awkwardly, not sure what their tactics will be, and just really not sure about the horse in all. Looks very, very well found around the $5 mark. I can't be with it. Tip Top back 150 metres in trip. Looks an interesting runner. Probably ridden a little bit more quietly this time and will be wanting tempo, which doesn't look guaranteed here. If it gets it, it'll run well. It's a definite horse that can improve, there's no doubt about that, especially with the vastly improved track conditions from last start. Alaskan Wolf's a fresh horse who draws to suit it, but always does need luck and will need more luck here. Strange that they've claimed. I'd rather risk it a day, but she's a definite knockout chance. Manhattan Chick found a race that was completely unsuitable last start. It was found in the toughest position in the race, wide and working all the way. Can't really put a line through it in this race. Off that run, I thought it could definitely improve, and at $19 a horse I didn't want to knock. Volante's better than a 25 to 1 chance, but will be last, you would say, and probably needs to hug the rail and ride for luck to be winning. Somebody's a very interesting horse, absolutely flying. Lack of a leader here, gate 1. Obviously Miss Eleanor Webster doesn't get to town very often, but she should be out and rolling in front on this horse. If she's nice and positive early, she should see her chance, and I'll be cheering for the team. It's a horse that I've always had plenty of time for and been with quite a few times, and for Eleanor it'll be a big moment, and I hope it runs well. It's definitely the horse to run down, there's no doubt about that. I think I missed Missile Coda earlier. It resumed sitting outside the leader in a really slow tempo off a long break and won well enough there. I don't think that's the kind of race this horse wants. It draws to be sort of midfield here unless they pushed early, and which is probably what I'd be doing, to be honest. Drawn inside Excelere, I'd be pushing forward with it and hoping that I got some cover, considering I'm not sure where I'll be otherwise. But that's up to Karen and the Snowden team. It seems short enough around the $5 chance, but I hazard a guess it's probably the most promising runner in the race long term. So definitely not putting a line through it. Many winning chances here. Cheering for somebody, but it's very well found around the 5 to 2 mark with Eleanor Webster on it. Etchelere is the other horse that will come across and race on pace. Is a place chance at the minimum at 25 to 1. There's a lot of chances here. I'd probably be betting around in Vienna, and it's probably the main one I'm betting around here. I can see most horses winning. It's one horse I really struggle to find, and probably Aaron Czar's the other one I struggle to find with a poor setup. And another race, unfortunately, I wouldn't be too keen to jump into with any confidence. There doesn't look any strong value, and it doesn't look any strong enough winning chances to throw your eggs into their basket either. There looks a few different plays from the start, a few different tempo options. Anything could kind of happen here. Race 6, 1900 metres. And unfortunately another race full of queries, and similar to the rest of the races. Bastia kind of had its chance last start. It was a very good ride, ended up on the back of Imperator Augustus. I think that's a good form line for this race, and I think the horse is suited up to 1900. It's just always hard to make that step up quickly and go on with it. It does look fairly priced around the $7 mark, and it's a nice enough horse, there's no doubt about that. Can win, but I'd probably prefer this run under its belt for another 19 very soon. Marmon jumps from the mile up, so this race that's the biggest problem. Nearly every horse is jumping at least 300 metres up in distance. Marmon's one of those. Racing Honestly whacked away the other day down the outside in a fast run race where it was suited, and will do the same. It won't win out of turn. Apprentice aboard, not really sure where it'll get to. If it can hold a position in the first half a dozen, it can be in the finish. Sabrarian, coming off the Grafting Guineas and run where it was every possible chance and whacked away, now has to jump up 300 metres and does look a query. I think it's very well found around the $5 mark, even though it does look the leader. There does look a bit of pressure, and I'd be worried about it. Touche I can't line up. His form's just difficult with that quick back up last start. He just seems to be doing a few things wrong and not really running through the line, so I'd be struggling to find him. Shadowlard won on debut, big odds, came down the outside, was suited by the tempo, but still a very strong race. Now jumps from 14 to 1900 with a trial in between. And the pace wasn't that quick there, it was just steady, so it was a very good win. Bowman jumping on it is a good sign, drawn inside here nor there, but should run well. Corridon from the Wally Yard, also jumping up from the mile, sat in front on a slow tempo and kicked on last start. Again, the time's probably a bit misleading there because of the slow tempo. Did look strong on the line and may have not been suited by that slow tempo, may have been suited by rolling along quicker or faster tempo, so it can definitely improve quickly. And $12 seems good odds for it from a good gate. Mutaraka is a horse that does look like it needs everything to fall its way. It has had a trial since its last start and does look suited up to 1900. Another horse I can't knock it around the $12 mark. Lucky Legend, same boat, going up in trip, a bit heavier than others, but it has had the 4 runs back over, 3 of them over 14. It is a funny horse that wasn't suited at Warwick Farm, went and won with Sam Clark on board at Kembla, and then last start was a very strange ride at Warwick Farm, at Kembla with Bobby Alyssa on it. Does look like it's going to get out the back here and will need a nice toe into the race. Another horse I don't want to knock around the $12 mark that can improve sharply though. And Artistic Beauties come from the country, racing well, comes out of the same race as Marmon last start, and now just has to run the extra 300 metres, which I do think is a bit of a query with this horse. It does look like the mile tops it out, but it was a great ride last start, and he's racing well. I just think it's very, very well found around the $5 mark. So the two favourites are probably the two I want to bet around in Sabrarian and Artistic Beauty, but I've got absolutely no idea which way to go. Betting will tell the story. Bastia, Shadowlard, Corridon do look to have really good upside, and they're probably the three I would settle on having something on if I had to, but again, it's just a tough race that anything can win. Race 7, Lucky Last. Another race where there doesn't look huge tempo on paper, so it will be interesting to see which way it goes early. There's a few horses that would like to get on the pace, I'm sure. A few interesting runners resuming. Manor draws that nice gate again and will be trying to hold that spot. If it holds a sort of third defence, fifth defence spot and gets clear running, it'll be in the finish. Static Lifts first up from a decent break here. 160 days, crossover noseband back on, blinkers off. Only the 740 metre trial is interesting to resume over the 1250, but it does draw a nice soft gate and should get the right run. Viceroy, I think, is a bit of a distance query, but comes off a nice win last start when had a break between runs, so can be fitter. And Bowman Sticks, just big decision hit for him early from the 15 gate. I thought Damn Ready's run was enormous last start in a Saturday race behind Pick Me Up and Manor. It was totally unsuited, having to come wide there that day, and it was strongest late. They obviously ran along, which helped a little bit, but it was nearly impossible to run on wide, and it did a good job. It does look ready after it had 2,000 metre runs, jumped to 12 last start, which is not easy to do. Now to 1250 and fitter, it does look to be peaking and gets the right gate to find a nice little trail here. Mapmaker's an interesting horse for mine. First up, 87 days. It's changed from Craig Martin to brother Tim Martin. Fitness is obviously the query, but it is well placed in this grade, and I love it when Timmy shows up with an unfashionable jockey from the market's perspective in Lee Megorian to steal a few kilos off it. It will need a bit of luck from gate 2, but if it gets it, he can run a really strong race. He was big odds earlier around the 20-1 mark. He's come in a bit, but he can run well. Onslaught isn't honest, but awkward and hard to find runner from this gate. McAvoy's obviously riding very well, and it can be a bit of a danger. I'm impressed as first up, has trialled quite well. A similar horse that'll be midfield probably first up, and can run a race. Eminent Duke's racing well, obviously, and just to worry for it for the 1250 and with the rider change. So for me, it's an interesting race. I've got Damn Ready on top. I think Mapmaker was the clear value when it was a bit bigger price. It's coming to probably closer to its right price now, but still can be hard to beat. Manor is about its right price for its racing style, where it's going to be inside and need luck, but can be in the finish. I think they're the three main chances that I'd like to be with, and not surprised if Static Lift runs well first up. Viceroy will need a great ride from Bowman. Onslaught will need a great ride from Karen McAvoy, and Andrew Adkins on I'm Impressed looks probably the knockout first up on the Ronnie Quinton train galloper. So a pretty tough program. I wouldn't be getting too heavily involved myself unless there's a bit of a pattern that develops, and we'll update during the day. These couple of small fields with no value to start the day. Hamoon Dream looks a decent play in race 3, where it looks to control the tempo. And then probably the last, look, the two early betting options. There doesn't look to be anything really special standing out today, so it'll be a quiet day from my perspective, and I hope everyone finds a winner. Thanks, guys.